Chapter 231 Disaster Knocking on the Door. Flying as fast as he could, Han Li returned to his Immortal's cave after a short while. Without doing anything further, he took out the Formation Establishment jade slip that Qi Yongxiao had given him and immersed his consciousness into it, carefully reading the method of using the Formation Establishment magic tools. Han Li decided to push his previous plans to the side and first set up the Great Formation around his Immortal's cave. After all, those cultivators were fighting not too far away. He did not feel safe. The setup of the 5 elements reversal formation was quite simple. After precisely inserting the formation flags and burying the formation plates, he was required to place down several small-scale magic formations with spirit stones outside of the formation center to provide the large formation with sufficient spiritual power. Like that, the large formation was able to immediately function. Furthermore, the formation's master only needed to know a few simple control commands and use the master formation flag on hand to ceaselessly shift and control the formation patterns, trapping enemies within illusions. Han Li inserted the formation flags and buried the formation's plates. Then he begrudgingly embedded several mid-grade spirit stones. These were half of all the spirit stones he possessed, and the loss caused his heart to ache for the majority of the day. But because he didn't want to reduce the power of this great formation, he could only resign himself to parting with his wealth. Though if he were to exchange some spiritual medicines of a certain age at the market city, Han Li would be able to acquire a great amount of spirit stones, but the odds of others discovering his secret and putting him under torturous interrogation would increase threefold. If he were not cautious and careful, he could have been attacked from all sides like that scene he just witnessed. After testing the large formation's operations, it seemed quite effective, but the specific defensive trapping ability could only be tested during an enemy trespass. But regarding its ability to completely shroud the vicinity of the Immortal's cave for several acres without the slightest of abnormalities, Han Li found it to be greatly worth it. Han Li, now feeling completely safe, returned to his chambers and started to think about his cultivation. If he wanted even the slightest chance of entering the cycle of core formation, he would have to possess a top-grade cultivation technique, talent that 1 in 10,000 didn't even possess, as well as the greatest of fortunes. The problem of foundation establishment fundamentally didn't compare. After all, foundation establishment only required sufficient aptitude and 1 or 2 foundation establishment pills. With this, the odds of entering foundation establishment were rather large. As for core formation, even with all of the above-mentioned circumstances, cultivators truly capable of entering core formation were few in number. Thus, every time a core formation cultivator appeared, almost every clan and sect would convene to celebrate without reserve. Furthermore, news of this would spread quickly throughout the cultivation world. The reason why the Masked Moon sect had become the #1 cultivation sect in the state of Yue, apart from having over 1,000 foundation establishment disciples, a number that far exceeded that of other sects, was because they had more than 10 core formation experts. This allowed them to look down upon the other 6 sects with disdain. Han Li knew that his own aptitudes were disastrous, far below that of other formation establishment disciples. The only cultivation technique he possessed was a very dubious Azure Essence sword art, a cultivation technique he couldn't use under any circumstance. His current chances were as thin as a veil. He could only hope that his luck would fare better. As such, Han Li currently seemed to be at a complete disadvantage in all areas. But after a moment of pondering, Han Li felt that although his aptitude was rather poor, with the mysterious small bottle he possessed that could mature spirit medicines along with his skill at pill refinement, this was not an obstacle that could not be overcome. Also, destiny couldn't be grasped with a person's power, so he did not need to mull over it. All he could do was strive to increase his own chances of reaching core formation and find a suitable top-grade cultivation technique for his own use. With his goal set on finding a cultivation technique, Han Li first thought of his chief master, Li Huaiyuan. Although he had merely taken in Han Li as an unnamed disciple, he should be willing to impart a few cultivation techniques to him. After all, he was a core formation expert. Perhaps Han Li could pick out a cultivation technique and even receive a pointer or two. With this thought, Han Li decided to return to Yellow Maple Valley the next morning and ask about the whereabouts of his master's Immortal's cave to seek some instruction. It was highly likely that his master had yet to hear the news of his success in achieving foundation establishment. As he thought this, he found it truly funny. Ever since Li Huaiwen took him in, Han Li hadn't been called upon even a single time. It was as if this unnamed disciple didn't exist at all, causing Han Li to feel upset. Naturally, as vexed as he was, Han Li couldn't take the initiative to call on him and make his master feel like Han Li was being far too indiscreet. But now that Han Li had reached foundation establishment, he could truly go to find this master of his. Even so, although he was his master's disciple, he would actually have to go and ask a few baffled strangers, much to his extreme embarrassment. Han Li laughed at himself for a moment before slowly falling asleep on his stone bed with a bitter smile. After sleeping for an unknown amount of time, a sudden and intense quake forcefully roused Han Li from sleep. As he was still half asleep and did not fully understand the situation, he almost believed the quake was a dream of his. But another violent quake came, causing Han Li's last trace of sleepiness to disappear without a trace. Apart from the earth shaking, an explosive rupture came from outside his Immortal's cave. It was clear that someone had touched his own restriction spell and was forcefully attacking his Great Restriction formation. Han Li was startled and furious. He immediately ran out of his bedroom and charged straight out of his Immortal's cave. Outside the Immortal's cave was a dense barrage of light arrows and beam attacks coming from several mechanical puppets floating in the sky. When Han Li saw this, he was so shocked that he nearly bit his own tongue. What was going on? Because he was afraid of attracting trouble, he didn't interfere with yesterday's matter. But after he returned to his home, they were actually able to find him. Furthermore, from their overbearing manner, it seemed they had some sort of misunderstanding. Could it be that when he flew away yesterday, they were able to track him? During this time of desperation, Han Li's mind was actually clear and his mind produced several scheming responses one after another. The people inside had better listen well. Hand over the one who has escaped into your cave. So long as you hand over that person to us, we will not disturb this dwelling's master any further. This is no reason for your esteemed self to offend our 1,000 bamboo school and invite calamity by defending strangers. Even under these people's fierce, unrestrained assault, their attempt to dissolve the 5 elements reversal formation produced no visible effects. A man's persuasive voice came down from the sky, belonging to that person Huang Long. When Han Li heard this, he could not help but look up. In the patch of sky with the most puppets, a green jade raft was suspended in the air. There were 6 or 7 differently clothed individuals with Huang Long at the very front. Behind him were the man and woman Han Li had seen before, as well as 4 other slim men who looked completely similar. They were rarely seen quadruplets. It seemed they were reinforcements from the 1,000 bamboo school in a rush. When Han Li heard they wanted him to hand someone over, he was startled. With complete doubt, he looked toward the center of his 5 elements reversal formation and saw a still person lying face down near the entrance of his cave. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. When Han Li saw this figure, the doubt in his stomach disappeared. He inwardly cursed without end. It seemed this senior martial brother Lin ran over here to escape and somehow entered Han Li's cave by mistake. As Han Li had attracted so much trouble toward him, how should he respond? But seeing how the great might of this damaged formation actually resisted such a berserk attack, Han Li felt much safer and wasn't as panicked as he was originally. Thus, after he wrinkled his brow, Han Li held the formation flag in hand and entered the formation spell, walking toward senior martial brother Lin. Han Li used both his hands to forcefully turn senior martial brother Lin onto his back. After carefully looking at his face, Han Li's expression immediately became unsightly, unable to say a single word. That was because he had no words to say to a dead man. With a jet-black face and trails of blood from his 7 orifices, this senior marshal brother Lin had long since stopped breathing. Han Li let out a sigh. After a moment of hesitation, he reached out into the body's bosom. Han Li wanted to find the puppets in senior brother Lin's storage pouch, as he was greatly interested in these types of unfair methods of combat. But just as Han Li's hand opened the corpse's jacket, a faint green ball of light seized the opportunity to suddenly fly out and throw itself toward Han Li's face like a shooting star. Han Li shouted "Aya!" with fright, and his body fell backward. Just as the ball of light was heading toward Han Li's face, Han Li's right hand suddenly flashed with white light and shot forth like lightning, tightly grabbing hold of the green ball of light. The light ball that he grabbed seemed to moan in pain. "Junior Marshal Brother, please spare my life. Junior Marshal Brother, I was completely wronged by the Chu clan and was forced without any other option. So long as Junior Marshal Brother is willing to release me, I guarantee that Junior Marshal Brother will receive enormous profit." Senior Marshal Brother Lin's repentant voice entered Han Li's mind and promised great reward. "Did you try to possess my body just now?" Han Li ignored the enticement with a dark face. It was just as Junior Marshal Brother described it. "However, I was confused during that time. I will certainly compensate Junior Marshal Brother for the fright. I wish that Sir Junior Marshal Brother will be gracious and will not stoop down to Senior Marshal Brother's level." Han Li heard Senior Marshal Brother Li's embarrassed response along with repeated apologies.